Mindset, a daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markel. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markel.
Hello and welcome back to Morning Mindset. I am your host, Paul Markel. Thank you once again for taking the time out of your day to join me here for the Morning Mindset podcast. As I sit in front of this microphone and record today's episode, I was just recently, an hour or so ago, made aware of the passing of Marvel Comics legend Stan Lee. Stan Lee was 95 years old when he passed away. I think that we can all say that Stan Lee probably lived a very, very full life. He was not taken from us in his prime. He wasn't taken from us too early. But regardless of that, the fact of the matter is when someone, an icon like Stan Lee passes, when he leaves this world, leaves us all behind, it makes us feel sad. I mean, I felt sad. Obviously, I didn't know Stan Lee personally. I'd never met Stan Lee. But that really doesn't matter because Stan Lee has been a part of my life since, since I was old enough to walk into a comic book store and give them 35 cents for a comic or 45 cents or 50 cents. I don't remember what comics were, how much they were when I was a little kid, when I was 10, 11 years old. But I spent a lot of time in comic book stores. There was one comic book store in particular that was located a few blocks, quarter of a mile from my house when I was growing up in Detroit. And I would walk over there with, 50 cents or 75 cents in my pocket. And I knew I could only afford to buy one comic book that day. I had just enough in my pocket to buy one. And if you went into a comic book shop in the 70s or 80s, there were literally hundreds and hundreds of titles available to you. The Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Hulk and the Fantastic Four and of course I'm trying to keep it all Marvel, but of course there was Batman and there was all the other stuff. But so there I am agonizing over which comic I'm going to buy with the 2 quarters or 3 quarters. I don't remember what they were. They were definitely way less than $1 when I was buying comic books. But, what was I going to buy? What was I going to take home with me? What story was I going to keep up with? What storyline? And I used to go back and forth between storylines. Like I would get hooked on whether it was a Spider-Man one or whatever, and I would follow that story for a while, and then I would get interested in something else. I'd get interested in, I was very big into the X-Men comics when I discovered those, and I followed the X-Men story, the saga of the X-Men with Angel and, Cyclops and Wolverine. And of course, Wolverine, well, maybe not of course, but Wolverine was my absolute favorite. I think it was probably most young boys, young men as they were growing up, they idolized Wolverine because he was a sassy, a smart aleck, but he was strong and he, did his own thing and he was his own boss and all that. And how did this all become part of our lives? How did and a lot of you guys who are younger, you 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, you may not have ever hung around in comic book stores or comic shops, but the Marvel Universe was made real to you thanks to cinema, thanks to Hollywood. I think that we can all say that when we examine the life of Stan Lee, that he lived a life. He had a life well lived, and he left a legacy behind for millions of people. And I don't expect that you will be the next Stan Lee or anyone like him, but when someone like Stan Lee departs from us, when they leave this earth and they leave us all behind, we're obviously we're sad. We're glad for what he has left us. We're going to continue to enjoy the heroes and the stories that Stan Lee created and he helped bring to life. My grandchildren will probably be enjoying that when they come around. I don't have any grandchildren yet. My son and his wife need to work on that, but I'm just saying. As we examine a life well lived, this gives us an opportunity for introspection. It gives us an opportunity to look at our own lives. And when it is time for you to depart from this earth, when you have departed, whether you depart early or late or medium or middle time or whatever it is, will others be able to honestly say about you, if they were to describe you, would they be able to say that you led a life well lived? It's not that hard of a question. It's not that difficult of a question. But it's a question nonetheless that we should all consider. When you leave this world, will people be able to say about you that, if you leave early? Some people leave us far too soon. Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee was in his early 30s when he left us. But even though he didn't live to, Stan Lee lived 3 of Bruce Lee's lifetimes. But both Bruce Lee and Stan Lee, and they were not related, by the way. I don't believe they were related in any way. But we can say about both those individuals that they lived a life well lived. Boy, I would need to take a sip of coffee or something. So when it's time for you to go and you depart and leave all of us behind, will people be able to examine your life and honestly be able to say that you lived a life well lived, that you had and you led a life well lived? And you say, well, Paul, you can't expect everyone to be Bruce Lee or Stan Lee, and I didn't mean to just pick out those 2 Lee people there, but it just jumped to the forefront of my memory. Do you expect that? No, I don't. But what we all have the opportunity to do now, when someone like that passes, is to look at our own lives and think about, when we go, what are we doing with our lives today? And it's a serious question. We're talking, morning mindset. We can talk about being positive and productive, leading positive and productive lives. So as you go about your day, as you go about your week, as you make your plans, think about that. Are you making the most of the time that you have available to you? And I'm not telling you that you can never watch television. I'm not telling you that you can never relax and just do nothing and veg out. No, I'm not saying that at all. But what do you do with your creative moments? What do you do with the time that you have available to you? And it's a question that only you can answer. But when someone like this, every once in a while, we lose someone. Last year we lost Gene Wilder, and I was a huge fan of Gene Wilder's films. And we lost him, but we could say that he lived a life he led a life well lived. So that's all I've got to say to you guys today. I just thought I would come to the radio, come to the microphone, and talk about my own personal feelings and how I am glad that Stan Lee was in this world. I'm glad that he produced what he did. It gave me a lot of joy in my youth, and of course, as I became an adult, I was able to take my children to see the films, the Spider-Man films, the X-Men films, the Captain America films, and all of that. And it's something that I've enjoyed with my children basically their entire lives. So thank you, Stan Lee. Thank you for everything you left behind for us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say today. I truly appreciate you guys being a part of the Morning Mindset audience. Now, don't forget, there is actually a website. It's called morningmindsetpodcast.com. And if you pop over there, we have a couple of items that you can purchase. My son, Zachary, he's the guy who takes care of the store. We have an official Morning Mindset coffee cup in 2 different sizes. If you'd like to avail yourself to one of those, we have posters. And of course, we have the books, Morning Mindset, a 30-day plan for a more positive and productive life. And Christmas is coming up. That's right. It's a season for giving. And if you want to give something to someone that you think they might be able to use to improve their own life, you can either go to the store, our store at Morning Mindset Podcast, or you can just go over to Amazon and pick one up there. either way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul Markel. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markel, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.